Good evening. I'd like to call the September 13th meeting of the Naperville Township Board of Trustees to order. I'd like to ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Here.
Malm? Osira?
Here.
Santucci?
Here.
Wagner?
Here.
Okay, so we have, the entire board is present. We do have a quorum tonight, and so we will be able to do business. Before we continue on with the agenda, I just want to make a brief remark that tonight we're just, we're doing a test. I had sent out a note that we're trying to continue to increase our transparency. We have a really nice practice of putting our web packets online, our board packets online so everybody can see them more than 48 business hours before our meeting. So we're doing some video tonight. We're going to see how that works for our board meetings, and with the intent of, just putting that online right next to our meeting. So we'll have the meeting agenda, the board packets, and ultimately a link to video. So there's microphones scattered around. You don't have to do anything special. It'll pick up your voice, under normal conversation. If you want to mute it for a sneeze or any other reason, you just put your hand in the middle, press down and hold it, and you'll mute your microphone. So there's really nothing more to it than that. If anyone, speaks, from the audience during public comment, we'll make sure that we move the mic around to pick it up. But this is a temporary setup that we have tonight. Are there any addenda to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comments. I'd like to invite any member of the public to speak for up to 3 minutes on any topic related to township government. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the audit of the bills and claims. I think we just take your time. Okay. Everything behaving today?
So far, so good.
That's good. You have to hold it down. All in a day's work.
Yeah. So what Nick does. I brought that so I can cut to the chase. So you'll make sure to get a clerk, a deputy clerk.
Right. Could you send me a note? Thanks. I'll make a note.
for them.
It's nice because you see instant result.
Some claims.
And the heat. Sure you got it. Keep it busy. Like forever. Right.
Give Steve a chance to get here.
I put it down for 6:30. I already put it in for 6:30. I'll change it when he gets. Be like the doctor.
That's how it was.
One of these people got women management with us. Pretty, yeah. The last name's end with an I. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could do that.
I can do that.
Cool.
In his platoon, there's only 4 black boys.
Yeah. What they do, I forget what
It's
the
supposed to
other.
be 1 weekend a month.
This one, that check doesn't request.
Special.
These guys are good job. Is he like?
Place coming home. Settled in?
Top bad.
Be out in nature, does he?
fish right there, so, yeah. Published on Friday last week.
There is a, there's an entry for 300, the road fund, for postage, for stamps. But I don't know why this is, I don't know if something became detached from this and together it adds up. But there is an entry. But this particular bill, check, is, this particular check is postmaster $300. It's in the checklist. And there is $300 against the road fund for stamps. But this, I think will, unless something...
So just clarify that.
Well, keep going and then we'll talk when you're done. And let me keep looking.
That's why we have you. So that's why we have you. We did, we just wanted to see if we could get you to.
Mhm.
The agenda, can I see it?
It's not one of them that blows up and burns, is it? I'll sit someplace else.
Thank you.
So, have the trustees completed the audit of bills and claims?
Yes.
Okay, and is there a report back from the audit of bills and claims? Okay, so, trustee Santucci has identified a bill submitted that doesn't match the check stub. And it's for postage, the road district, $141 is the claim, and the check stub is $300. I've looked it up in the register, and there is a check for $300 for postage for the road and bridge fund. Perhaps there's a second page of this that's missing and has come loose. I don't know. It's $141 but the amount put in is $300. So maybe the invoice is, you say the claim looks right to you, Stan? Yeah. I wonder why it went in for $300. Okay.
There should be no invoice because we can't purchase the stamps until
Right.
we get the check.
Right. It's electric, right. So I think, so you're confident that it's $141? Okay. So I think what we will do tonight, when we get to that agenda item, is we will amend the claim for the road fund to reduce it by the difference. Okay. And then I'm just going to hold on to this until we've done that, and then we'll follow up from the accounting side to,
Maybe just the check stub got mixed up with another.
it might have done that. I don't know. I've looked through here, and there's a postage payment for the township fund for $300. So maybe, but it was earlier, not the same date, but maybe that same amount got, because it went to the same payee, maybe that amount got entered erroneously, but we'll take care of that. I'm going to hold on to this until we come to that agenda item. Okay. Thank you for the diligence. All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. And the first thing I would ask for is a motion to establish a consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Malm,
Yes.
Osira,
Yes.
Santucci,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Okay, so we've established a consent agenda. There are 4 items. One is the approval of the July 25th special meeting minutes, then the approval of the August 9th regular meeting open session minutes, accepting the second quarter report from Community Career Center, and then approving our township's third quarter identity theft prevention report. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So. Second. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Malm,
Yes.
Osira,
Yes.
Santucci,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Okay, so the consent agenda is approved by the board. All right. We'll move us on down to the approval of bills and claims. So we will start with the town fund bills and claims for the month of August 2016. Could someone make a motion in the amount shown on the agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the town fund bills and claims for $193,331.31.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Malm,
Yes.
Osira,
Yes.
Santucci,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Now, the road fund bills and claims, we need to reduce the amount by $159. So, I believe that would be $63,004.99. Is my math correct?
I think so.
Okay, and the way we got there is there is a payment for $300 against a claim of $141. That is an error. And so there's a gap of $159. And so we would reduce the approved claims by $159, and then we'll go back and correct this payment. It's actually probably a credit now sitting with the postmaster.
I move that we approve the road and bills claims with the amended amount of $63,104.99.
No, that's
No?
not correct.
No,
$63,004.99.
I'm sorry, $63,004.99.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Malm,
Yes.
Osira,
Yes.
Santucci,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to hold on to this, and I will just handle that separately. So I'm going to keep that in my pile there. All right, we will move on. There are no presentations and special recognition this evening. We'll move on to old business. And I have this item, again, for old business to discuss the 2016 Ride DuPage PACE Paratransit Local Share Agreement. We discussed it at the last board meeting. I had reported that at the moment that we thought the partners had agreed on the allocation methodology for 2016, it actually ended up not being approved by the Wheatland Township Board for their portion of it. And again, that was going on a miles basis rather than these old allocations that really don't represent usage anymore. And the background situation is that Wheatland Township is considerably overpaying compared to what their amount of usage. However, Naperville Township, our amount that we're allocated and our actual usage turn out to be within a couple $100s of each other. So what we're being invoiced and what our usage is are just right in line. The situation among the partners has not been resolved yet for 2016. I had reported to the board at the last meeting that we are paying our invoices as they are billed to us, and they are pretty much identical with our usage. So for us, there's not an issue. The board asked me at the last meeting, and we have not signed off on the agreement because all of the partners haven't agreed on the allocation. The board asked me at the last meeting what was the potential risk or liability that the township faces if one of the partners is short paying. And so we've spent some time investigating that. We have staff Jenny Dawley here tonight. She's been actively involved with this, and we have been able to confirm that we haven't seen the payments, but from talking, we understand that Wheatland Township is short paying their invoices. They're paying it in line with what their board approved. Their board approved a reduced allocation when they set their budget earlier this year. Back in the second quarter, they set their budget at this lower level. So that's what they're paying. And so there's a kind of a running short payment that's accumulating in PACE. PACE, our experience has shown that they tend to be a little slow in sorting through their payments and past payments. So I don't know whether they had dealt with this issue yet or not. I've consulted the city of Naperville, I've addressed it to them that we don't want to disrupt the program. I don't see any disruption occurring to the program, but we would like to understand what our liability potentially would be in that situation and how it would be resolved. So I believe at this time there's been some fairly low-level discussions about that. The city had indicated to us unofficially that it shouldn't be any issue for Naperville Township, but that's not the same as PACE indicating that to us. So we're proceeding right now to gather this information. And that's where it stands. It's almost time to have the discussions for 2017. They're on a calendar year. So the 2017 year starts January 1st. And I think all the partners have at least conversationally agreed to go on a usage basis, looking at recent past history, not this old allocation that just doesn't fit anymore. So we're trying to proceed very carefully so that everybody is able to do the right things at the right time, and we maintain the integrity of the program. And that's basically where we're at with it. I've asked the city of Naperville to gather us together for the 2017 partners discussion. So we're waiting for that to happen, and hopefully in that process this other matter will get cleared up as well. Steve, do you have any feedback on that from a legal perspective?
I have not reviewed the contract recently to look at what provisions in there might actually pertain to or impact our situation, or impact our position, based on the fact that we have a party that's short paying and we seem to be operating under a different formula than is specified in the actual agreement that's unsigned at this point, as I understand it. I do have some concerns about that because in one sense,
I mean, if you want
parties
to advise
continue
us to sign the agreement, we'll sign the agreement, but you
I don't
would
think
advise
that-
us earlier not to sign the
No,
agreement.
I don't think you should sign the agreement. What
Yeah.
I'm concerned about is that we're going to set a course of conduct by, now that we have knowledge that parties are short paying, that we have the risk of setting a course of conduct that will then become applicable in lieu of what's in the written agreement. So I think we do need to get with the other parties right away and state a position that is consistent with where we want to ultimately wind up on this thing before we, go through the rest of the calendar year, with the understanding that somebody's short paying and not stating our position clearly that we're doing this and, we're going to go ahead and continue to pay because our allocation under either agreement is approximately the same, but we're not accepting any responsibility or liability for any shortfall that the parties may have towards the total obligation. So, I mean, we can talk about this offline, but
Well,
I think
I'd like you to send me a recommendation or a note
Okay.
on it. I don't know, it's not necessarily easy to get the partners together.
right.
We kind of get together on email, but it might be difficult to get the partners together. But we need to proceed then. So
And
if
I
you
think we
could
also do need
advise
to
me.
get, we also do need to get Ride to Page too. Or
Yes.
Metra, or whoever is behind that.
Pace.
Pace, sorry, to get specific with us on what we're gonna do if it's not resolved, so.
That's good. I don't really, we're not the administrator, so I don't see it as our role to administrate. But we're interested in maintaining the integrity of the program
Right.
and protecting the interests of Naperville Township. That's what we need to do. And that's all for the purpose of serving the public in doing that. Okay. Any questions from the board? Move on to new business. The first item is 11.1, to approve an ordinance amending the Naperville Township purchasing policy. So you have before you a policy that we adopted about 3 years ago. This is an amendment to that policy. We've added a new section to the policy. You've got a red line copy and you've got a final copy. And when we had our audit earlier this year from our annual independent audit, Klein Hall recommended that we adopt specific policy governing the use of purchasing and/or credit cards by the township and the road district. When they had reviewed our business over the last year, they felt that was needed. They specifically asked that we compose a policy that specifies authorized users, allowed and disallowed expenses, purchasing limits, vendor limits, required documentation, and any other specification the township and the road district deem appropriate. So this policy pertains to the township. It doesn't pertain to the road district. The road district has its own policies and would need to do whatever they do on their own, although it's available to be adopted if they wish to copy it. So we have added in, you'll see in red, on the red line, use of township purchasing and credit cards. Purchasing cards, we simply use those for discount purchasing. We have Sam's Club. We don't actually we don't actually use it as a credit card. We go over there and we obtain basically an invoice from them. We come back here and get a check and we pay it by check, but we use the card for discount purchasing and for convenience. And it has limits on it that you see in the policy. There's actually another one too that we didn't include and we'll amend it to include it, called Purchase Advantage. And we use that for general assistance with Albertsons for food vouchers. Again, it's not credit. We just simply use it to get a statement, and then we cut a check against that for our general assistance clients. And then credit card, there's one credit card that we have. It's a BMO Harris card, a corporate purchasing card, and it's only used for items that we can't write checks for. There are several of those types of items, like Microsoft Office 365. Has to be paid online. When we purchase checks, they have to be done online. We can't use a check to purchase our checks. So that's the only purpose of it. We don't allow it for anything else. That's our policy here in the township. And you can read what the required documentation is. So, is there a motion to approve the amendment to the purchasing
I'll
policy?
make a motion to approve to amend the Naperville Township purchasing policy.
Second?
Any discussion?
Looks good.
All right. Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mel?
Yes.
Lucera?
Yes.
Santucci?
Yes.
Yes.
And so I will go ahead and add purchase advantage in. And from time to time, there may be things like that. If something changes in scope, we would bring this back to the board. So, thank you.
And we have an annual review of that.
We have an annual review of that policy, right? All right. This is on to item 11.2 to discuss the preliminary budget development timeline and guidelines for fiscal year 2017-2018, which seems absolutely shocking that that's coming. So this is the type of document I've put together every year since we've been in office, and have updated it. And tonight would be the first discussion, the first opportunity to look at the budget assumptions and the timeline. So you can see from the the cover note that we start looking at this in September. We would look, we'd have a review of the guidelines and fund balance goals and an estimated tax levy resolution in October, and look to do the tax levy ordinance in November. It has to be done by the end of the year. We're targeting to do it in November. And then we do the budget development January, February with a workshop, and then the appropriation ordinance, tentative ordinance in February, the actual ordinance in April. That's the overall plan. If we flip in and look at the high-level assumptions and just kind of walk through this, I just want to point out some things. General assistance, we're seeing a pretty steady demand for general assistance this year. We modified our emergency assistance rules and guidelines so that we could provide more flexibility to clients and really do, I think, a more effective job in preventing homelessness. I mean, that's what it is. It's homelessness prevention. And so we've modified our guidelines to be more flexible, which means we're seeing some pretty strong demand. So I would anticipate a repeat of last year's budget request of about $231,000 for general assistance. On the administration side, for the township supervisors area, we want to continue. We've been making improvements all along. We've been doing things to be more efficient. We've been leveraging technology. We've been trying to be more transparent. And the next step is to really go and rigorously, effectively benchmark our services and costs to identify opportunities. That's what we need to do. We have our governance manual that we're continuing to maintain and refresh, put it out there online, all good stuff. Some of the assumptions that would go into the budget, my administrative budget is where all the elected official salaries are carried. So obviously that's one of our assumptions. I'm assuming no major change in the allocation for the PACE Ride DuPage program. We've seen the overall cost of that program stay fairly steady for the last couple of years, but it depends on what type of grants, that they get from other units of government, from the federal government, and I think from the RTA as well. So we're at the tail end of that, but I'm assuming we'll continue to be somewhere around $75,000 to $80,000 in there. And we're assuming that we'll continue to be able to apply for grants for Ride to Page to Work, which offsets half of the Ride to Page to Work costs. It's a big deal. It's tens of thousands of dollars. Another major assumption is around health insurance costs. We're on a January 1st renewal date. I've talked to our broker just recently to see if we had any information yet about what they're seeing for the January 1st renewals, and we're probably several weeks away from getting that information. They're seeing the fourth quarter renewals right now, and they're seeing somewhere around 2.5% to 5%. But remember, the program is age banded, and everybody gets a year older, and so their rates go up because it's age banded. So you add about 2.5% in for that. So we'd anticipate about a 5 to 7.5% increase. We have a big contract with Clark Mosquito in the second year. It's a 2% increase. I'm assuming our legal fees will go back to normal in the next calendar year or budget year. So factoring all of those things together, I am anticipating being able to budget a reduction in last year's administration request of $1.173 million. We are looking at productivity improvements, being more efficient, and we just have to continue to do that. So I don't have a number at this time. I haven't done the budget, but looking at it on a macro level, despite these other risks, and you're always going to have risks, I anticipate a reduction in the budget. And I know Warren and I have talked a lot. He's done a lot in the assessor's office to move in that direction as well. Warren, did you want to jump in?
Technology, the implementation of our technology in the last 2 years into the assessor's office has yielded great efficiencies, and so we look at a reduction in our particular budget standpoint from that technology implementation, more and more of a maintenance situation going forward here now. So we're looking at well, we don't know the number yet, but we're anticipating a reduction again this year as we did in our first year.
Okay. All right.
Nothing from the clerk?
Pardon? Oh.
Clerk's office?
Hello.
Any budget guidelines on your end?
None.
Okay. I'll just put flat down. If we move on to revenues, because that would then give us the full picture. So on the next page, if we move on to revenues, one thing we have to remember, and this is very unfortunate, but we received a notice earlier this year from the Illinois Department of Revenue that they had messed up their PPRT calculations. Gosh, I want to say it was a couple of years ago. And so they're going to be recovering from all the units of government that get PPRT in this coming cycle, probably, the misallocations. And I think from talking with our auditors, the way that that's going to occur is you're just going to get less income when you get your property tax payments, when we get our property tax payments. So for example, we just recently received a lot of revenue last week, or maybe it was this week, from the payments everybody made on their property tax bills. They're June 1st and September 1st, so we get revenues coming in. And what will likely happen is they will, I guess they'll have to do this working with the counties, because our money comes from the county of DuPage. That's how we get that revenue. But that's the thought as to that's all I know right now, is that probably next year is that we'll get $16,000 less approximately. That was their estimate. So we just have to remember that when we work on our levy and a budget and appropriation ordinance. Then you see below our final calculations of our 2015 tax rates and extensions. So the township, we had a levy this last year. Our levy was $1,945,400. We abated that levy by $230,000. That was the town fund and the general assistance fund combined. We abated the town fund by $200,000. We abated the general assistance fund by $30,000. So our total aggregate extension, our actual extension was $1,735,506. But if you add that back in, you see below the total aggregate extension. That's important for calculating what your maximum amount you can tax the following year. So, to calculate all that, you have to know what the CPI is. It's going to be 0.7% for tax year 2016. And so when you do a simple truth in taxation calculation, we could levy a maximum of $2,063,781 and be in compliance with the property tax limitation law, truth in taxation. However, since we've been in office, we have not done that. We've held our levy flat. We've abated different amounts just depending upon what our fund balances were. We felt at one point the fund balances were too high. And so 2 years ago we abated a more significant amount to get them in line with the goals that we see below. The town fund, 6 to 9 months of reserves, and the general assistance fund more than that. Now we only get revenues twice a year. I mean, the majority of our revenues come from property taxes. We don't get sales tax. We get a little PPRT. We have some other revenues, but we're mostly coming off of property taxes. So the fund balance isn't a nice, steady, flat number. It ebbs and flows depending on when property taxes come in. However, looking at things and looking what we've been able to abate, my intention is to bring to the board next month, in conjunction with our assessor, is actually a resolution to reduce the levy itself, to reduce the tax levy, which I'm looking forward to doing that. Hopefully the total amount will be lower, the extension will be lower, but we'll get there in the new year. But we're looking to actually reduce the tax levy, which is a really important step, I think, to take for our taxpayers. And when we're able to abate this type of money a couple of years in a row, it gives me the confidence when I look at what the assessor's office is doing and the improvements that we can implement. I feel confident in that. Just like to pause for any comments or questions from the board, the assessor. Okay. We'll go on and we'll quickly look at the calendar. This calendar has official dates that you see in bold that are required for the budget development cycle, and then the ones that aren't in bold are our own dates, our own plans. So today we're on the September 13th Township Board meeting. Our next Township Board meeting is October 11th. I anticipate bringing in our estimated tax levy resolution for the township into that meeting based on what we discussed today. And then our November meeting is early. I just want to highlight that to everybody because of the TOI convention, and I think also the election itself. Right, the election I think would be on our normal meeting night, November 8th. So we're not going to meet here on November 8th, the night of the presidential election. We instead will meet here on November 1st. It's not really an option to push backwards because of TOI, so we're going to bring it forward. So November 1st is our November meeting. And we anticipate doing our levy ordinance at that particular meeting. Anticipate having a township budget workshop in early January, we'll do an official calendar, I think, at our next meeting. And then you see the typical meetings that fall after that. Does anybody have any questions on the calendar or the guidelines? Okay. I've also attached a copy of all the correspondence from the county clerk's office that shows our tax levy and our extension from this last year, and the calculation of the maximum tax is all in there. Okay. We'll move on to reports. So we start with our assessor, Mr. Dixon.
We turned our books over to DuPage County Supervisor Assessment approximately 2 weeks ago. We published our assessment notices for the 2016 year as of Friday. So notices are out, and publication of revised assessments for 2016 are currently out. We started fielding phone calls, and we'll start looking at any kind of assessment appeals within a 30-day. They have a 30-day window to appeal their assessments at this particular point. First point being their discussions with our office, and then formal Board of Review, County Board of Review hearings starting approximately in October. So we're in our little bit busier part of our season. To give you some insight on some of the efficiencies that the office has realized, we're measured in the job that we do as assessors and assessing offices. Is the most important thing that we can do is be equitable, and that means that we can be we are the distribution of the particular levies across that. So one particular property being assessed equally or equitably with other properties. We're measured by a measurement through statewide called the coefficient of dispersion. Coefficient of dispersion is anything under 15 is considered, and that was a deviation between the median sale price, and anything in the realm of 15 is considered excellent. Anything 15 and under is considered excellent. Under 10 is unheard of, especially in a little bit more volatile market. But I'd like to give some compliments to our office and our staff for doing a job and being one of the most equitable ones. The prior month, this month of August, we had 9.05, and the month before that we had 8.45. So I thought the assessor before me was pretty darn good, and there was no better. But I have to give some kudos to our staff, and that's our number one priority. So we're realizing some results out of that, and the staff's working hard.
Outstanding.
So, yep.
Outstanding.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's good for everybody in the community. This is outstanding. Thank you. Highway Commissioner, Mr. Watazia.
Yeah, we're a little late in starting our construction this year because of the budget problems earlier in the year. Normally, when it comes to Longwood, because of the elementary school there, I like to do our road work in there June and July when school is not in session. But unfortunately, because of the late start this year, the street's kind of torn up. There's heavy equipment there. Parents are dropping kids off and picking kids up, and hopefully we'll be out of there in another week. The contractor also informed me that because we're not able to complete all the construction this year because of the budget cuts, we'll have to resume next year, and there'll be probably an additional $5,000 upcharge for a mobilization fee because they have to pull their equipment out when they're finished and bring it back in the spring. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Last Tuesday night, I got a call about 8:30 in the evening from a sheriff's deputy. Said there was a tree down on Hook Road and it was blocking traffic. He wanted me to come close the road. I said, unfortunately, we don't have any people to come close the road. I said, is the tree in the wires? He said, yes, it is. I said, well, that kind of eliminates us because we're not authorized to work in the electric wire. So we had to call Commonwealth Edison to take care of the tree, and then it's still in the ditch there, and we'll pick it up probably this week. Oddly enough, the same night, 3 a.m., I got a phone call from the sheriff's deputy. There was another tree down on Bilter Road, which is the far west side of the township, almost out of the county. And again, that one was in the wires. So ComEd cut the tree down and pushed it over in the ditch, and we went back the next morning, cleaned it up, and got rid of the tree. So, because you three ladies enjoy micromanaging the road district, I'm thinking about adding your three names to my nighttime call list. So if you get a call in the middle of the night, you don't have to do anything. Eventually they'll get down to me, but at least you'll be informed as to what's going on in the township.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Batasiak. And our township clerk, Mr. Greenberg.
Yes, we have some lien work underway by legal counsel Steve Adams regarding failure of some of the homeowners to reimburse the township for contractor services that have been hired to take care of weed and grass control. On a positive note, we've had a significant increase in voter registrations at among several of the senior residential facilities around town. Many of whom are simply changing address. Others are coming in from out of state. So we've got new voter registrations. We all have hope because the youngest of those new voters was 76 years old. The oldest was 98. And spry gives us all hope. That's my report.
Right, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. And myself, supervisor's report. There's a lot going on very soon. This week, Friday, we have our Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Senior Conference over at the Municipal Center. Jenny Dolly and others have been working very hard on that. How many sign-ups do we have at this point?
374.
374, so almost a full house at this point. So that's always a great success and an opportunity to share a lot of information with the seniors. Who's coming in this year to speak?
We have four.
Four, okay. Okay, great.
Health from Edward Hospital. There's a financial advisor talking, and her specialty is empowering women. And chair exercises. And the last one is a person from Microsoft who is going to teach and present technology advances that seniors can use, specifically Skype and FaceTime.
Okay, great, wonderful. Right. Okay. So, let's see, we are working on our township newsletter. It's almost ready for publication, but due to the road district lawsuit, our legal expenses are way over budget. And so we will continue to increase, those will increase probably due to the appeal that's underway. So we've used our contingency funds to cover those costs, and we will have to just very closely manage our expenditures in the future. Anything that's discretionary spending, we're really putting a clamp on that and just not doing it. So we have a wonderful township newsletter for the fall that's almost ready for publication. I did a second review of it with the designer today, full of lots of good information, but because of the budget pressures, we will not be mailing it out to the households this time like we have done in the past. Instead, we are going to have probably 4,000 to 5,000 copies made up. We've got about 30 different locations around the township where we are taking those to distribute them, including to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise conference on Friday. We will also push the envelope on putting it out there online. We've taken portions of it also, not just the entire newsletter in its entirety. It'll be a web-based version. It'll make it easier to read online. But we'll take excerpts from it and put that out there and use that to email out as well. So in the future, I think we will continue to do more electronically. It's not an or. We certainly want to publish it and mail it. We get a great response on this. It's very valuable information, but we just have to go through a different hard copy distribution channel this time around. If you know of places that you think would be beneficial to drop copies, let us know, let me know, so that we can get some there. And we want to add those to our list in the future. Even when we do mail it out, we also drop copies a lot of places as well, so we want to keep building that up. Mike and Jan Barber did retire on September 1st. They were here at the last meeting, giving a final report. Outstanding service by both of them. The township has really benefited from the veterans advocacy, the senior services and communication work. Jan did a great job on Ride DuPage this year as well, doing a lot of analysis. And Mike's work on veterans advocacy was very unique. His work, his role went well beyond Naperville Township, and he continues in those roles. He's not here at the township anymore, but he's still the service officer for the VFW, for the American Legion. He's still involved with the Heinz VA, still doing all that work. I'm currently not in the process of replacing those positions. We're going to take some time to look over, to make sure we attract the right people. The role that Mike was in particular was very much what that individual was able to do and provide. That role is really dependent on the individual. We wouldn't just put somebody in the role. He wore a lot of hats, and that's what made that role really work. And then on the other side, we'll just have an opportunity to, look at what's the best way to configure our staffing in the future, and how to align roles. We need to do a lot more electronically, a lot more with social media. So those are the types of skills, that we'll be looking to bring in to the township. And I'll keep the board advised going forward. Obviously, that other than my general assistant staff, when I do bring staff on board, it has to come to the board for approval. And I just want to point out we've done a lot to improve transparency and accountability over the last 3 years. We keep doing more. Technology really helps. It's amazing what we can do now that we couldn't even do 3 years ago. Putting the board packets online. I don't think there are any other townships in DuPage County that put their board packets online. I'm not even sure that they do board packets that are sent out to their board members in advance, well in advance, so you can be prepared for the meeting. And we're very proud to have those board packets online. It's the right thing to do, so that anybody who wants to see what it is we're going to do and what we're going to talk about can see what's in the packets. And so tonight, we're testing adding video to that. Now you might think, well, it's the township. What do you need video for? But I think it helps. It provides a window into what we do and what we talk about. And so we have, Frank here from Sunrise Communications shooting this video with us tonight. And I think the way it'll work is it'll be, we'll have to open up a YouTube account, and then there'll be a URL from the YouTube account that we can link to our website. So I'll be asking, the board members for feedback once we put that out there, once we've demoed it, and see if we want to keep doing this in the future, which I would recommend. And the other thing was the budget development process, which we kicked off already. So I'll move over to the trustees. Trustee Anderson, your report.
No major report, but a comment in response to Highway Commissioner Watazek. I'd be happy to take those calls, and maybe in our micromanage or macromanaging, we can work on the sheriff's office to be a little more efficient, to go through a timeline of a process sheet, that if wires are involved, call ComEd. Maybe they wouldn't have to bother you. So maybe we can work on them a little bit to make their office more efficient as well. So happy to take those calls.
Maybe, James Mendrick would like to hear about that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's very interested in improving processes.
Especially with the patrols, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Anderson. Trustee Malm.
I attended 2 chamber lunches this month and plan to get to the Triad event on Friday, because I've been other years and it's great. It's just so fun to see the ladies and gentlemen. It's a great event. Wonderful event.
Which event was that?
The Triad.
The Triad.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's it for me.
Trustee Santucci.
I have nothing.
And Trustee Wagner.
No report.
Okay, great. Thank you both. And our township attorney, any report?
No report tonight.
Okay, I've got a couple questions for you then. I had received a communication from your firm about the Local Government Travel Expense Control Act that was approved by the legislature this summer on July 22nd. And I guess we're required. Well, it says here January 1st it's effective.
Right, the effective date of the statute is January
Okay.
1, but the actual operative
Okay.
provisions are required to be in place 60
Okay,
days
I
after
gotcha. Okay.
Effective date.
So we are required to have a local government travel expense control act. All units of government are required to have that, from how I'm reading this, all local governments.
Yep.
So we have elements of this embedded in some of our policies, like the board bylaws, and stuff here and there, but not really a comprehensive.
Right.
And you
I
have
was gonna
a
provide you with
sample.
one. In fact, I'm giving you
Right.
one for no charge. It's already adapted for township use. Our firm is providing that at no charge to the township. It is really the result of a lot of internal discussion and assessment, not only of the actual language of the statute, but also we obtained the transcripts of the legislative debates regarding the General Assembly debates regarding the bill. So we've done a really thorough job of trying to determine the General Assembly's intent on this. And that's why I don't have it tonight, but we now have it in place. So I would like to have that on the agenda for the next meeting, with your permission,
Please.
to have an initial discussion about it. I think part of what we want to look at is not only what we have to do under the requirements of the statute with regard to setting dollar amount limits on travel, lodging, and meals for anyone either employed or elected or appointed to the township, but also establishing a specific process that includes, which I know we already have, which includes the presentation of backup documentation, and a specific requirement that a vote be taken by the board on roll call in open session if expenses exceed the threshold amounts that are established by you. Also, we need to set those dollar amounts for those thresholds.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we need to make sure, and the ordinance will include a process
Okay.
that we'll follow. And then I think what we'll have to do is comb through our current policies and procedures to make sure that anything that's inconsistent with that is removed, or there's a reference back to this ordinance. Or we can find a way to just, codify it with part of an existing ordinance. But I think it's probably cleaner to just leave it as a separate standalone.
Right, I think
ordinance.
so. And then we'll need the involvement of the assessor's office in that. And I guess when we look at it, we might need to circle back to our financial controls policy and make
Yep.
sure that the board doesn't approve anything that, maybe we don't, as you said, it might be able to stand alone, but we'll need to circle back and at least look at our financial
Right.
control policy
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that that it's clear, that the board can't approve anything that's outside those limits without
Right.
going through some type of process. And I guess that would be for any unit of government for which the board approves expenses. So it would be the township, and I would assume the road district would need to adopt a policy that complies with the legislature. So,
One thing I will say is that from our analysis, it's clear that this thing is vague in a lot of ways, and I think there's going to be some fleshing out of the details through either through litigation or further legislation, but everybody's just trying to apply their best reasoning to how this should be implemented and applied. So we're all just trying to do our best with it at this point.
great, okay, well, I think it'll be a good thing for us to
Yep.
have as well. Then I have one other question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Back in June, we adopted an ordinance or resolution for personal properties. It was a resolution on personal property sale, and we have to do an online auction. How long do we have to do that auction?
In other words, how long do you have after you approve the ordinance? I don't think there's a timeline, so.
We have the stuff online, we're on eBay and we're selling
Oh,
it, but we're not
okay.
selling all of it at this point.
There's no deadline established by the statute.
Yeah.
I don't know if the ordinance itself, I can't recall.
No, the
whether
ordinance doesn't have a
Okay,
timeline
then
in it.
you're free to continue to sell it that way. Typically, we write those ordinances in a way that would allow you to pull it off of eBay if you're not selling it and find other means and modes of selling it without having to come back to the board. But I always recommend that if you do that.
What's how long do you recommend that we stay out in auction?
I think that's kind of a judgment call based on, the bids you're receiving and the activity and traffic and interest and where you've set your.
To post and repost it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it may be that you've kind of exhausted it if you've had it out there for a while and there's no action on it, there's no new bids.
We're still getting some nibbles. We're 30 days in. Maybe we'll do another 30 days.
Yeah, I
and
think that
that's
would
a
be
good-
appropriate.
good-
And then I would suggest that before you pull it off of eBay, you just let the board know
Yes.
that you're planning to do that. I think it's
Right.
within your authority to do it, but it's always a good idea to be transparent about it. so.
Absolutely.
And then I think, you can look at selling it through ads in the paper, through other online services. There are a variety of companies out there that actually are willing to take it on consignment and try to sell it for you. You can reduce your reserve if you've got it on eBay and you've got a reserve set at a certain figure. Maybe it's an indication that your value is too high for what the market will bear. You can talk to consultants. If it's a lot of money, you can talk to a
It's not.
personal property
I think
appraiser.
the market's saturated.
Yeah, so I don't know what the personal property was, or don't recall. Was it computer equipment?
It's furniture mostly.
Furniture?
File
Okay.
File
cabinets.
cabinets.
Yeah. I think the market's pretty saturated.
At
Yeah.
that point, we have the ability for transfer to other entities with, after.
Well,
You can always
Other
sell it to another
other
unit of
governments
government.
can come anytime, and another unit of government
Right.
can
Doesn't
come
have to bid.
What
anytime.
about a non-for-profit?
So the first thing we did was we noticed up all the other local units of government. And then after that,
Yeah.
we went to the online.
Okay.
And there's only so much, that,
Right.
that
Right.
people are willing to do. Probably our biggest opportunity is with Goodwill or something like that.
Yeah, before you donate it to a not-for-profit like Goodwill,
Yeah.
I think you want to make a finding
Okay.
for your file that, you've exhausted your efforts to sell this through eBay and government entities, and, you've determined the value is scrap or salvage, and accordingly, you're not donating anything of material value
Well,
to
and
a
I'm
private purpose.
speculating at this point. We still have the online auction underway. I'm just looking down the road. So I guess what I would say to the board is that we'll make a report on this at our next meeting.
I think that's good.
And,
I think
we'll
60
go
days
from
is
Yeah.
a good idea on eBay. Go ahead and let it roll for another 60 days or 30 days.
Okay. Just make a note.
More file cabinets. We went paperless. We had all this.
Any questions
Nobody wants
from the board on that? Well, then we need a motion to convene into closed session for exception 2C11 pending probable or imminent litigation, and 2C21 minutes of prior meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act. Is there a motion?
So move?
Second?
Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mel?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes.
Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
So we are now going to be going into closed session. So we have returned back into open session, and we have item 14.1, which is the approval of the closed session minutes from July 12th, 2016. Is there a motion? So move. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mel?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes.
Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
All right, and so they are approved. There are no other final actions coming from closed session, so all we need is a motion to adjourn.
So move?
Second?
Come on.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, so we are adjourned.